No pay, no personal life, no privacy, and a front-row seat to royal debauchery. Welcome to the glamorous life of a lady-in-waiting at the court of Versailles, where the only thing more abundant than gold leaf is the stench of unwashed nobility. Meet Beatrice Harlow, a minor noblewoman from a once prosperous family who's just secured the honor of serving Marie Antoinette in the glittering halls of Versailles. Like many young women of her station, Beatrice's family has bankrupted themselves purchasing the necessary wardrobe for her to attend court, confident this investment will pay off with a prestigious marriage. What Beatrice doesn't know is that she's traded her freedom for the privilege of holding the royal chamber pot. It's 1774, and Beatrice arrives at Versailles with stars in her eyes and several trunks of elaborate gowns that cost more than her family's entire estate. The dresses have already put her father into crippling debt, but no one mentioned that ladies-in-waiting receive no salary whatsoever. That's right, one of the most coveted positions for noblewomen offered exactly zero compensation. The royal court operated on the baffling principle that the honor of proximity to the queen was payment enough. Apparently, honor doesn't buy bread or pay off creditors. On her first morning at Versailles, Beatrice is awakened at 6 a.m. for the queen's lever, the elaborate morning ceremony where the monarch is dressed, coiffed, and prepared for the day. Beatrice's specific job? Standing silently for hours holding a silver bowl while various higher-ranked ladies have the privilege of handling the queen's chemise or stockings. When Marie Antoinette finally needs the bowl, it's to spit out her mouth rinse. Beatrice manages to avoid flinching as royal saliva splashes onto her hand. Her mother would be so proud. "I've been practicing my court curtsy for months," Beatrice whispers to fellow lady-in-waiting Charlotte during a rare moment of rest. "My dancing master charged extra for the lessons." "Save your knees," Charlotte replies with the dead eyes of someone who's been at court for 3 years. "You'll need them for all the crouching you'll do to empty the queen's bath." The rigid etiquette at Versailles would make a military drill sergeant weep with joy. Ladies-in-waiting couldn't sit in the presence of royalty without permission. They couldn't speak unless spoken to. They couldn't enter a room before the queen or leave a room after her. They couldn't even scratch an itch without breaking protocol. By the end of her first day, Beatrice has been reprimanded 7 times by the mistress of the robes for infractions including breathing too audibly and excessive blinking. At Versailles, privacy was as rare as common sense. The palace housed around 10,000 people, but was built with approximately 12 toilets, meaning hallways frequently doubled as urinals. Ladies-in-waiting slept in cramped chambers, often sharing beds with other ladies they barely knew. Beatrice finds herself bunking with Lady Josephine, who snores with the gusto of a drunken guardsman and sleepwalks directly into wardrobes. "I was told we'd have private chambers," Beatrice complains to an older lady-in-waiting named Louise Embry. "Private?" Louise laughs until she snorts. "My dear, the queen herself can't use the royal commode without an audience. The king visits her bedchamber with half the court watching through the curtains. Privacy died with the previous century. Indeed, the concept of personal space simply didn't exist for royal attendants. When Marie Antoinette bathes, ladies-in-waiting must stand ready with towels. When she relieves herself, they must stand ready with fresh linen. When she changes clothes, which happens at least 3 times daily, they must stand ready with every piece of royal attire, presented in the exact order dictated by centuries of tradition. Perhaps the most exhausting aspect of being a lady-in-waiting was the sheer physical toll. Court dresses weighed up to 40 pounds with their elaborate hoops, trains, and embellishments. Corsets cinched waists so tightly that fainting was a common occurrence. So common, in fact, that ladies developed the art of the graceful swoon, collapsing in a manner that wouldn't disrupt court proceedings or expose their ankles. "I can't feel my ribs anymore," Beatrice gasps as Louise laces her into her court dress one morning. "That's normal," Louise assures her. "The feeling will return when you're 80 and your grandchildren are dressing you for your funeral." Historical records confirm that many ladies-in-waiting suffered permanent physical deformities from the fashion requirements of court life. The elaborate hairstyles, some towering nearly 3 feet tall and decorated with everything from bird cages to model ships, led to scalp infections, neck strain, and baldness. Skin conditions flourished under the heavy makeup that consisted primarily of lead and mercury. Nothing says beauty like slow, systemic poisoning. The strict hierarchies among the ladies themselves made modern corporate politics look like a kindergarten playground. Ladies-in-waiting were ranked with the precision of a mathematician categorizing prime numbers. At the top was the superintendent of the queen's household, followed by the mistress of the robes, ladies of the bedchamber, ladies of the palace, and finally, poor souls like Beatrice, mere ladies-in-waiting, who waited and waited and waited. One morning, Beatrice commits the grievous error of handing the queen a handkerchief before the higher-ranked lady of the bedchamber could do so. "You've upset the entire natural order," hisses the mistress of the robes later. Lady Dupont has been weeping in the chapel for an hour. Her family has held handkerchief privileges since Louis XIV. Unlike modern jobs where you might escape your boss after hours, ladies-in-waiting were perpetually on call. Their schedules were dictated entirely by the queen's whims. If Marie Antoinette decided at 3 a.m. that she wanted to play cards, her ladies were roused from sleep to sit with her. If she wanted to visit her private retreat at Petit Trianon, selected ladies would accompany her, often standing in decorative gardens for hours while the queen pretended to be a shepherdess. The bitter irony of being a lady-in-waiting was that despite their proximity to immense power, they wielded almost none themselves. They were simultaneously envied by those outside court and trapped within it. They couldn't leave without permission, couldn't marry without royal approval, and couldn't even send letters without them being potentially read by court spies. "My mother writes asking if I've secured a husband yet," Beatrice tells Charlotte one evening as they prepare for bed. Their faces still caked with white lead makeup because they're too exhausted to properly clean it off. "Tell her you've secured something better," Charlotte mumbles into her pillow. A front-row view of the slow collapse of the French monarchy and the certain knowledge that human dignity is merely a concept invented to torment those who don't possess it. In a particularly memorable week, Beatrice contracts lice from the queen's wig, spends 47 consecutive hours awake during a royal birth, where her primary duty is to fan the queen without creating excessive breeze, and discovers that her monthly salary of 0 livres doesn't quite cover her expenses at court. The ultimate cosmic joke of being a lady-in-waiting at Versailles was that these women endured all this suffering for the supposed prestige and marriage prospects. Yet, in reality, they had less freedom to court potential husbands than ordinary noblewomen. Their schedules left little time for romance, and many potential suitors were intimidated by their proximity to royal politics. By the time most ladies-in-waiting secured husbands, they'd spent years depleting their family's resources on court dresses and receiving no income in return. When Beatrice finally catches the eye of Louis Everett, a handsome young noble with promising court connections, she's momentarily elated, until she discovers that she needs the queen's permission to pursue the relationship, permission that Marie Antoinette withholds because she finds Beatrice's hairdressing skills indispensable. "The queen says I have gentle hands," Beatrice tells Louis during a rare chaperoned moment at a court ball. "Apparently they're too valuable to waste on a husband. Perhaps I could petition the king," Louis suggests. "And perhaps pigs could fly to the moon," Beatrice replies with the weary wisdom of 6 months at court. "But I wouldn't bet my chemise on either outcome." As the French Revolution begins brewing beyond the gilded gates, ladies-in-waiting find themselves in an increasingly precarious position. The public despises them as symbols of excess, while the royals demand ever more loyalty and service. They are caught between the proverbial guillotine and the hard place. By 1789, when the Bastille falls, Beatrice has spent 3 years at court, has developed a permanent stoop from curtsying, has lost 2 teeth to sugar-rotted court desserts, and has exactly the same number of marriage prospects as when she arrived, 0. "Do you think they'll kill us along with the royals?" Beatrice asks Louise as they listen to distant Paris mobs through the palace windows. "Look on the bright side," Louise replies, adjusting her uncomfortable wig. "At least the guillotine allows you to sit down." So there you have it, the ladies-in-waiting of Versailles. Women who spent their youth, health, and family fortunes for the privilege of holding the royal spittoon, only to discover that the most prestigious position at court came with everything except actual prestige. In the end, they weren't even waiting for anything in particular. just for history to finally release them from the ornate prison they'd been taught to desire. As Beatrice would later write in her memoirs, published under a pseudonym from exile in England at Versailles, we ladies-in-waiting specialized in exactly that waiting. Waiting for the queen to wake, waiting for the king to nod, waiting for permission to scratch our powdered noses. The greatest irony is that what we waited for most desperately, recognition of our humanity, never arrived until the revolutionaries came to burn our corsets and free us from the gilded cage we'd mortgaged our fathers' estates to enter.